President wife is pretty and cool. Chapter 11. She will marry even if she is unwilling. Lan Yanran ate with his head lowered, thinking that she was referring to him. He had once made known his bold ambitions at school, claiming that he would definitely be admitted to the Wrong City Medical Research Institute. Now, he felt his face blazing up. Anran is back, and she is also the daughter of the Lan family. Anran, you haven't learned any medical knowledge in the countryside, so you definitely can't compare it to Yaxon. However, I have made arrangements so you can attend the same school as Yaxon. After all, you're not young anymore, and if news spreads, others might think the Lan family is mistreating you. You aren't going to school to play, and it isn't as carefree as compared to the countryside. Don't embarrass me. And if you tarnish the Lan family's name, you can leave the family with your brother. When Lan Yanran heard his name, he lowered his head silently. His small face flushed. Lan Yanran hated the current atmosphere. She was forcefully suppressing the fire in her heart as she smiled. Grandma, I wouldn't disappoint you. I still want to apply to the Wrong City Medical Research Institute. Besides, exams are like competitions. There are highs and lows, but as long as I work hard to learn, I believe that the results won't be too bad. Grandma, I know that you originally wanted to apply, weren't able to make it. I will definitely fulfill your dreams for you. Lan Yashin almost laughed out loud. Did she really think she could enter the Wrong City Medical Research Institute? Is that a place just anyone can enter? It was wishful thinking. The words put a bad taste in Zhao Shumi's mouth. She found it hard to swallow, and her face turned flush. Back then, she really wanted to enter the Wrong City Medical Research Institute. But she was the first to be eliminated due to her lack of ability. Zhao Shumi was a prideful woman, and hearing those words made her furious. She was about to get angry when Xu Yanshan quietly pulled the corner of her throat closed, beckoning her to go back to business. Xu Yanshan was anxious as she was afraid that Mo Jinrong would find Lan Yaxin. Her daughter could not be implicated. Zhao Shumi tried hard to swallow the food in her mouth. She thought of an excuse and spoke. I called you here today for another matter. The marriage between Mo family and the Lan family was decided by the old master long ago. I'm sure everyone knows this. Now that Anran has received the marriageable age, we can't go against the promise your grandfather made. Originally, it was meant for Yakshin, but she was still young, so Anran will go instead. You will take her place to marry into the Mo family. Lan Yakshin couldn't wait to see Lan Anran's reaction. She heard that Mo Jinrong was an old and ugly monster. Legend had it that he was tyrannical, loved to eat people, and was extremely violent. If Lan Anran married that monster, she would be tortured to death. This was a marriage arranged by their grandfather, so if she didn't obey, Grandma wouldn't be happy, and a show would unfold. Mom, how could you? Wasn't Yakshin supposed to marry him? Anran just returned. How can she get married? Lan Young was upset. What? I wronged her by letting her get married? How could I harm her? Zhao Shumi stopped moving the chopsticks in her hand and asked. That is uncertain. Lan Yanran muttered softly. Presumptuous! Would I harm you? You have no manners. Zhao Shumi slammed the bowl in her hand on the table and said angrily. Mom, Yanran didn't mean that. And it's just that Anran just returned, so it wouldn't be appropriate for her to marry into the Mo family. The Mo family is a wealthy and prestigious family. Anran is... Li Euro interrupted. Everyone knew the horrifying rumors about Mo Jinrong. She would never let her daughter jump into this fiery pit. Anran will be fine. Euro, The marriage to the Mo family was decided long ago, and Anran isn't young anymore. She might have a bad temper, but she is still a daughter of the Lan family. After she marries over and becomes a wife, her temper will naturally become restrained. Zhu Yanshan smiled, her face sleazy and greedy. Lan Yanran cursed silently in his heart. Bullshit. Why don't you marry? Yanshan, Yaxin is also a daughter of the Lan family. Why isn't she going to marry him? Li Euro retorted. Shut up! There is no end. Li Euro, would I harm Yanran? Previously, we decided on Yaxin, but you should know that Yaxin is the hope of our family and will bring glory to the Lan family in the future. How can she marry Mojin Rong? Besides, Yaxin is still young while Anran is a suitable age. I don't expect any big contribution to the Lan family from her. I'm just asking her to marry into the Mo family to be the young mistress. Is that so bad? Zhao Shumi's face was furious, her eyes wide. Mom, Anran wants to attend school too. I couldn't bear to marry her off at this age. The Mo family? Mom, you heard the rumors. How could you push Anran into such an arrangement? Lan Tingyang asked reluctantly. He had never thought about marrying Lan Anran off, let alone to Mo Jinrong. The reason for agreeing before was to bring Lan Anran back. Now that she was back, they would naturally have to discuss it again. Chapter 12. Compensate for the past. Lan Tingyang, are you still my son? How is the Mo family a bad option? After Anran is married, she won't have to worry about food or clothing, and she will enjoy her life. How did I become the villain? If Yaxin wasn't so young, she wouldn't be getting such a good deal. Don't you know how to be grateful? You ingrates. Let me make this clear. She will get married even if she is unwilling. Zhao Shumi's tough tone disappointed Lan Tingyang. He thought that no matter how bad he was still her biological son. And even if she treated him badly, she would still love his children. He didn't expect her to throw his daughter into a fiery pit on their first meeting. He couldn't accept it. Lan Yaxin watched from the side happily as a fight threatened to erupt. She hurried over and said, "It's all my fault. This was originally for me. If it wasn't for my young age, we wouldn't have to trouble you both." She lowered her head as if she did something wrong and even shed some tears. Zhao Shumi looked distressed. She hurriedly pulled her into her arms and wiped her tears. "Good girl, how could I blame you? Don't cry. You're the best child in the Lan family. The Lan family will have to depend on you to bring us glory. You're our only hope. Your sister doesn't have anything to do, and if she gets married early, it'll save her from embarrassing us." "Mom, you're wrong. Anran is also still a child, and she didn't do anything wrong. How could she shame the Lan family? She is your biological granddaughter. How could you treat her like this?" Lan Tingyang finally said his innermost thoughts. Over the years, he knew that his mother loved his older brother. She would often neglect his feelings and, by extension, didn't like his children as well. But he could endure it. Now his mother was being too much, and he couldn't help but speak up. "Are you going to rebel? Lan Tingyang, am I treating you poorly? I'm sending Anran to a good place. She should be grateful. If she gains anything, she might be able to help the Lan family. Isn't that a good thing?" Zhao Shumi only had money in mind, and the Mo family was a prestigious family. They were loaded, and if Lan Anran married into the family, she could benefit, which would be a great thing. "Mom, why do you only think about money? The Mo family is from hell. How could you?" Lan Tingyang wanted to have a good talk with his mother, but was stopped by Lan Anran. She hadn't spoken just now, because she was too lazy to say another word to Zhao Shumi. But now she couldn't just stay silent. "Grandma, Dad, Mom, stop fighting. I'm willing to marry into the Mo family." Lan Anran spoke calmly. There was even a slight smile on her face. She didn't seem unwilling at all. Ayn Rand, don't be scared. Your grandmother can't force you. Lan Ting-young looked at his daughter, thinking that she was coerced into agreeing, and immediately felt his heart ache. When did I force her? You heard it. Ayn Rand is willing. Ayn Rand, you are my good granddaughter. Zhao Xumin's smile brightened. Lan Yaxin was a little surprised. She thought that Lan Ayn Rand didn't understand and pretended to be very sad. Sis, I'm sorry. It's my fault. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have to marry Mo Jinrong, that beast. Lan Ayn Rand was too lazy to deal with Lan Yaxin. She just wanted to finish the meal and hurry home. It's all right. She was still as calm as ever, saying that she was going to marry Mo Jinrong voluntarily. The regret from her past life would probably be compensated in this lifetime. Lan Ayn Rand's reaction made her a little surprised. Looking at the expressions around the table, Lan Yaxin had a vague understanding. Lan Ayn Rand was forced. Even if she was bold, would she dare to go against Grandma's words? It seemed that Grandma was Lan Ayn Rand's nemesis. Lan Yaxin was overjoyed. She looked at Zhu Yanshan and they smiled, eating triumphantly. Lan Ting-young had more to say, but Lan Ayn Rand held the back of his hand and signaled for him to talk at home. He then swallowed his grievances. The table calmed down again, everyone immersed in their own thoughts. Lan Ting-young and Li Yurov didn't eat much as they were thinking about Lan Ayn Rand. After the meal, the family left, and after they were gone, the house burst into laughter. Back in the Lan family villa, Lan Ayn Rand saw Lan Ting-young's expression and said, Dad, it's settled. You don't have to brood over it. Lan Ayn Rand spoke sensibly. Lan Ting-young already felt like he owed his daughter a lot. The marriage to Mo Jinrong was meant for Lan Yaxin, but she wasn't willing and it fell onto his daughter. He was at a loss. Mo Jinrong was said to be a man-eating monster with a moody temperament. His daughter hadn't had parental love since she was a child and would definitely suffer there. In Wrong City, everyone knew about the marriage between the Lan family and the Mo family, so it wasn't a promise that they could be violated. Ayn Rand, you can't marry Mo Jinrong. He's a cannibalistic monster. I'll let you down. I know that you are sensible and well-behaved and don't want to make things difficult for me, but I can't push you onto this fiery pit. Don't marry because of me and your mother. We will help you. Lan Ayn Rand was a sensible child, and Lan Ting-young feared that she had agreed to the marriage so that things wouldn't be difficult for him, and hence he felt extremely guilty. Chapter 13. Report. Dad, don't worry. I'm all right, and I'm willing. Lan Ayn Rand held onto Lan Ting-young's arm and smiled. He's a temperamental person. I'm afraid that after the wedding, the more Lan Ting-young thought about it, the more wrong it felt. He wanted to dissuade Lan Ayn Rand, but was interrupted. Dad, don't worry. It's nothing. We will get along slowly after we're married, Lan Ayn Rand said obediently. Sis, are you sure you're going to marry that monster? Lan Ayn Rand was pouting on the side. His sister had just returned home, but was leaving to get married before they even got close. He couldn't bear it. He was cursing Mo Jinrong in his heart. Why did he have to like his sister? Lan Ayn Rand touched Lan Yan Rand's small head, rubbed his soft hair, and smiled. You don't have to worry about me. I'll protect myself. The family's worry made Lan Ayn Rand extremely touched. She didn't feel such concern in her past life, but she was finally experiencing the feeling of a family. When Lan Ayn Rand saw Lan Ting-young hesitate, she said they could invite Mo Jinrong home to see for themselves. Lan Ting-young felt a little relieved when he heard this. Mrs. Lan felt bad for her daughter, as the marriage was done in such a hurry. The next day, Lan Yan Rand took Lan Ayn Rand to Wrong City University. Wrong City University was a star student's goal, and many people were dying to enter the school. Almost everyone from the Land family attended Wrong City University, and naturally, it was famed for its science laboratory. The students who entered the experimental classes often ended up becoming doctors. The Land family was a medical family, and of course they had to attend the experimental classes. Many members of the Land family attended the school, but they were not forced to become doctors, many of which were liberal arts students. Sis, let's report to our teacher first. Lan Yanran got out of the car and walked with Lan Anran. Many girls pointed at them along the way. Needless to say, Lan Anran knew that Lan Yanran was a school hunk. His grades were poor, but it didn't affect his good looks. He was adored by many girls in the school and was known as a star. Lan Anran didn't panic at all. She stared straight ahead and she followed Lan Yanran. She was born pretty and had an excellent figure, which attracted the adoration of many boys and the jealousy of many girls. Everyone was looking at them with jealousy. Lan Yanran felt uncomfortable from the stairs and wanted to hurry up to the classroom. They sped up and arrived at the teacher's office. "Good morning. I am Lan Anran." Lan Anran spoke first, her voice sweet and gentle, attracting the attention of the head teacher, Li Yu. Li Yu eyed her up and down. She was on a white coat, jeans, and a high ponytail, which made her look like a doctor. "Your parents have spoken to me about your situation. You haven't learned any science and will have to work hard in the future. We have an examination coming up soon." Lan Anran spoke with a sweet smile on her face. "Teacher, rest assured, I will." Li Yu thought that she was too beautiful, but she didn't know whether Anran could keep up with her studies. She was worried of tarnishing her reputation. Her classes came first every year, and she didn't intend to be dragged down. Since Lan Anran and Lan Yanran were seen together, the school exploded. Many people were speculating about their relationship and had posted photos of them in chats to discuss. Lan Yaxin saw it too. As the school beauty, how could she allow anyone else to take her title? She refuted the rumors on the official website. "Don't talk nonsense. She is my sister, and Lan Yanran's biological sister. She will be in our experimental classes from now on. Don't compare me with her. We're not even on the same level." Lan Yaxin's sarcastic words instantly explained their relationship. After all, who would dare to refute the school beauty? When they heard that Lan Anran was Lan Yanran's biological sister, many girls were immediately swayed, siding with Lan Anran. They started acting hypocritically, complimenting Lan Anran with everything they had learned in school. The class was also bustling. Many boys saw Lan Anran's photo and started to covet her, while many girls became jealous. "Well, that's great. Isn't she just a vixen?" A girl pouted and said in dissatisfaction. "Shut up, you're so annoying." Lin Chang kicked the table and said dissatisfied. He was sleeping and had a bad temper when he was awakened. He roared and no one dared to say anything. At this time, the head teacher, Li Yu, brought Lan Anran in. She was surprised to see the class so quiet. "We have a new classmate today, so let's introduce her." Li Yu directed Lan Anran to the front. Chapter 14, Wrong City University. Lan Anran's voice was soft and beautiful. She said softly, "Hello, everyone. I am Lan Anran. Pleased to meet you." The class fell silent and everyone stared at Lan Anran. She wore a white coat and jeans, while her high ponytail emphasized her tiny face. Her skin was fair and glowing, and her eyes were big and bright. She was a beautiful sight. Lan Anran was like a fairy that continually radiated her own charm. Wasn't she too pretty? She was prettier than the photographs. The people in the audience were dumbfounded, and even Lin Chang, who had never been interested in girls, was awestruck. The experimental class was a place with too many boats chasing too few fishes. They always thought that Lan Yaxon was the best looking. They didn't expect to see such an ethereal visitor. However, some students showed contempt for Lan Anran. The experimental class is not a beauty pageant, and then every year there were only a few slots in Wrong City Medical Research Institute, given to the Wrong City University. Those who looked good might not necessarily do well in exams. This is a place for the capable. It wasn't just for anyone. Who is she? Lin Cheng asked sarcastically. I heard that she's the eldest daughter of the Lan family. Lan and Yanran's older sister. Someone speculated. What a display of nepotism. That explains how she can enter. Since Yanran is trash, does that mean his elder sister is even worse? She's just a wild child, and yet she dares to be in our class? I don't agree. A hand raised and everyone turned to the voice. It was Sun Hu. Why are you unhappy? Li Yu, the head teacher, asked as she pushed her glasses with a frown. Sun Hu was the top student in the class and the one who usually caused the most trouble. Although Li Yu didn't like her very much, she didn't make it obvious. Teacher, this is an experimental class. We worked hard to get in and have to survive an elimination every month. How can she just join us? It's not fair to the rest of us. Sun Hu was also a rich second-generation heir to her family's wealth. But she prioritized talent and despised those who used money to solve everything. Yes, it's not fair. The experimental class is a place for those with talent. I heard that she came from the countryside. How can she be with us? Wouldn't it lower our standards? Someone in class immediately followed. Li Yu was embarrassed, but this was something the principal had wanted, and she had no choice. Just as she was about to say something, Lan Anran spoke. The standards of the experimental class? Are you referring to these grades? Lan Anran pointed to the grades on the wall. The best result in the experimental class was from Lan Yaxon of Class 2. Although we're not as good as Class 2, we're still one of the top in the school. Can you match out? Get out if you know what's best. We wouldn't want a rotten apple to drag us down. Sun Hu's tone was extremely provocative, and she clearly despised Lan Anran. Why did she have to have, other than her looks? That's the top score. The first place is 130 out of 150 points. The experimental class standards doesn't seem like much. Lan Anran looked at the results of Sun Hu, the first place in the class. What? You dare insult me? This country girl sure has a big ego. What do you know? Do you know how difficult the test paper is? The countryside only teaches pinyin, right? Sun Hu smiled playfully. The whole class laughed loudly. You are Sun Hu, the ugly chatterbox. If you are so capable, why aren't you at the top of the level? Lan Anran's words stumped her. She clenched her fists tightly and was furious. She wanted to be first in their level, but Lan Yaxon was always a little higher than her. This was an unexplainable pain. You wild child, a sharp mouth alone isn't going to be useful. The experimental class tests one's ability, but you're here thanks to the money and will be eliminated in 2 days. If you want to enter the experimental class, you'll have to go through me. Accept my challenge, or you won't have the right to stay here. Lan Anran hesitated, wondering if it was too early to reveal her abilities. But if she didn't compete, she wouldn't be able to enter the school. Sun Hu took her hesitation as fear. The people in the audience were also whispering. It seems that this bimbo is scared. Someone that comes from the countryside wouldn't know about herbs. She probably only knows about wildflowers by the roadside. Seems like it. Just look at her. Sun Hu is the second best in our grade. The eternal second place. How can this little village girl defeat her? It seems that the wealthy village beauty is about to leave. She'll definitely won't be able to win. Those who made such comments were mostly girls, their eyes filled with jealousy and disdain. What, are you scared? Don't come here if you're scared. Just scurry away. Sun Hu looked at Lan and ran triumphantly. She was very confident. Besides, aside from Lan Yaxin, is there anyone else who could compare to her? Sun Hu, Li Yu wanted to speak, but when Lan and Ran interrupted her, I accept your challenge. Lan and wouldn't let them look down on her. It wouldn't hurt to establish herself. Sun Hu was taken slightly aback and she smiled. Some people don't know their own abilities and insist on putting on a front. You can't blame me for this. The people below the stage shook their heads, predicting Lan and Ren's loss. They didn't hold any hope for her at all. Chapter 15. The Challenge. Sun Hu took 3 pieces of grass from under the table, placed them neatly on the table, and looked at Lan and Ran with a smile. These were the 3 kinds of herbs used in the experimental class today. Tell me what they are and their medicinal properties. Lan and Ran stepped forward and looked at them, a smile appearing on her face. Aren't these the 3 herbs she used in her 3-ingredient medicinal soup? This was so simple. Sun Hu looked at the smile on Lan and Ran's face, thinking that Ayn Rand was stumped. The smile was used to conceal her guilty conscience. She spent a great deal of effort to find these 3 pieces of grass. They grew in extremely harsh environments and generally wouldn't be known by people from the countryside. A countryside girl like Lan and Rand might recognize my files, but she wouldn't possibly know about something so good. However, the next second, the smile was wiped off of Sun Hu's face. Lan and Rand named the herbs easily. The one on the left is called Gymnostemma pentaphylium. It has anti-inflammatory, detoxifying, cough-inhibiting, and expectorant effects. It can be made as tea and is mainly used for physical weakness and some chronic inflammations. The bions in the middle can clear away any heat and detoxify, promote blood circulation, and remove blood stasis, and reduce blood pressure. The light bamboo leaf on the right is called Ophiopogon japonicus. It is a diuretic, produces fluids to quench thirst, tongue sores, etc. Do you have anything else? That was too simple. Don't tell me it is the test paper question you spent so long to find. Li Yu was stunned. How did she know all of these? This information was only found in the Institute of Medicine textbooks, and it wouldn't be easy to have them memorized. Sun Hu was stunned for several seconds. Her mouth was wide open, and she couldn't believe what just happened. She actually knows these herbs? It actually hadn't stumped her. This was new information she had just learned. The other classmates were in disbelief and were asking how Lan and Ran could have known about them. Suddenly, someone said that it was normal for her to know about these since she was from the countryside. After all, is there anything the countryside didn't have? This statement convinced everyone, and some thought that it was a coincidence. When Sun Hu heard this, she was certain Ayn Rand was lucky, and that it wouldn't be strange for someone from the countryside to recognize these herbs. This is a dumb luck, and she couldn't possibly be so fortunate next time. How was it? Is there no more questions? Miss Lee, can I sit? Lan and Rand smiled. Li Yu was stunned for a moment. Since Sun Hu didn't protest further, she nodded. You can sit next to Zhao Shaoli. Sun Hu watched Lan and Rand sit. She was furious and unconvinced. She secretly cursed Ayn Rand, hoping she would be eliminated. Lan and Rand's deskmate was a rich second generation, Zhao Shuli. She talked non-stop every day, probably because she was lonely and no one listened to her. Now that she finally had a deskmate, she was extremely excited. She tugged on Lan and Rand's clothes with a smile. Ayn Rand, you're so beautiful. Is Lan Yaxin from class 2 really your sister? She is the school beauty. But now that you're here, there's going to be a new school beauty. Lan Yan didn't speak, but she just smiled. Just as she was about to stand, she seemed to have caught Lan Yaxin standing at the door. She suddenly remembered how she believed Lan Yaxin's words in the past life, and how Lan Yaxin had forced her off the cliff with each step. She really couldn't leave her alone. A horrifying smile appeared on the corner of Lan Anran's mouth, making Zhao Shuli shiver. Zhao Shuli's grades weren't bad, but she wasn't forced to be a doctor by her parents. She was interested in the profession and, compared to the others, had the least amount of stress. The experimental class was judged based on the students' results. Aside from Zhao Shuli, everyone else wasn't optimistic about Lan Anran, thinking she was just here to make up for the numbers and would be kicked out soon. The experimental class wasn't a place anyone could stay. It was the equivalent to the Olympics, a test of one's ability. Someone as beautiful as Lan Anran stirred the jealousy of most female students, and almost all of the girls ostracized her. When Lan Yaxin returned from physical education class, her expression was extremely dark. When her group friends saw that she was upset, they knew it was because of Lan Anran. Don't worry, I have seen the photos. She isn't as pretty as our Yaxin. Besides, I don't think she knows anything. Think about it. The countryside girl wouldn't know about chemistry and biology. She probably doesn't even know how to write. She might not even be able to match up to Lan Yanran. Hearing this, Lan Yaxin felt slightly better. Don't say that. My sister is used to freedom in the countryside, and the education in the countryside is naturally inferior to ours. She can't be blamed. There was an underlying insult in Lan Yaxin's words, but on the outside she seemed kind and understanding. She is overestimating herself. Everyone knows that the Lan family values reputation. Lan Yanran's frequent failure is already embarrassing enough. If you haven't held up the Lan family's reputation, the Lan family would have been finished. Doesn't Lan Anran think it's embarrassing enough? She doesn't know anything, and yet she's here trying to flaunt her abilities. She'll just end up embarrassing herself. Her friends laughed. Well, I have no choice. I'll have to study hard and maintain honor for the Lan family. In other words, the Lan family could only rely on her. Jackson, don't worry. You're already a default student of the Wrong City Medical Research Institute. You will definitely be able to get in. Her friends nodded in agreement. After leaving the classroom, Lan Anran carried her school bag and prepared to go home. Just then, Lan Yaxin caught up with her. Lan Yaxin wanted to hold Lan Anran's hand, but the moment she touched her, Lan Anran swung her away with disgust and spoke in a cold tone. I don't like people touching me. Lan Yaxin lowered her head and let out an oomph. Disgust and hatred appearing in her eyes, and she quickly turned the topic away with a smile. Sis, I heard that you're going to apply to the Wrong City Medical Research Institute. Does it have anything to do with you? Lan Anran didn't even turn her head. She continued to walk as she spoke. Sis, not everyone in the Lan family has to become a doctor. It's a difficult profession. It's good enough for just Yanran to be a doctor. You haven't learned the basics and aren't familiar with the knowledge, so it will be very difficult. I don't think second uncle or second aunt will blame you if you don't participate. As for grandma, I can help put in a good word. Don't worry. You don't have to make it difficult for yourself. Lan Yaxin's words seemed to be kind, but she seemed to be thinking of for Lan Anran's sake, but she meant that Lan Anran was a bottom feeder, just like Lan Yanran, and learning would be useless.